All right, so we're starting.
We're starting.
Hi, everybody. We're
Hey guys. To
back.
all our
I'm so excited. We're
hardcore
excited.
14 listeners, we love you. We
We love
respect
you.
you.
To our 11 to 14 regular listeners, I just
Yes.
shout y'all out. Y'all are real ones.
Yes. And most of our demographic is in Jersey. So
This is Jersey. Anyway, if anyone has seen that TikTok,
Okay, so episode 5.
this one was a doozy. If we thought last week was a doozy, this one is a doozy. Um,
I have nothing to say to that.
a doozy?
Yeah.
It's because Jimmy came back, and Jimmy,
Yeah, that's what you said last
I
week
feel like a
too.
spiritual connection with him. Like when one of his first lines was, I have diddly squat, and I was like, I missed you, man.
I saw a meme that was like, when WandaVision confirms Wanda is the most powerful Avenger, 13-year-old boys everywhere like punching walls in their punching holes in their
Yeah,
walls.
no, when they had the Captain Marvel and
That was funny.
the
A reference.
Wanda debate,
We'll
I
get
was
there.
like,
I was
oh,
like,
for us, I
this
love
was
it.
for the fans. This was for us everywhere.
Yeah,
Okay, so before I get ahead of myself, episode 5 recap. So we are now in the 80s, giving us very much
family
family
ties,
ties,
Full House.
very much Full House vibes. Like the parallels were just uncanny.
It starts with her. Okay, so we open up and she's trying to get the twins to like stop crying, and this is like the first time that we see she can't control them with her powers because she's trying to use her powers to get them to go to sleep. And
Right.
then Miss Agnes comes out of nowhere, and she's like, "Oh, I was gonna go to my like jazzercise class, I think she says." And she's like, "I heard them. I was like walking to my jazzercise class, and I heard them, and I thought that I would help you guys out." And then Vision is
Us.
you could see Vision is like in his protective dad mode, and he's like, watch out,
Vision
and
like
Wanda's like, no,
sussed
like
it
it's okay,
out.
it's
Like,
fine.
you think
Yeah,
it's
like
weird?
he's on his, which was kind of sweet because I was like, this is what it would be like
Like
if things
this.
hadn't gone south in Infinity Wars. And then she kind of breaks character, and she's like, "Do you want me to go again?" She looks at Wanda. She's
Yo,
like, "Do you want me to
when
go
that
again?"
happened, I got
And
full
then
body
they're
chills.
both like, Wanda looks at Vision, and Wanda's just like, "Oh my god!" And then Vision is like, "What do you mean?" And
Like,
then
what the heck did you
Agatha,
say?
Agnes is like, Agnes goes, "Do you want me to go from the top? Because he doesn't want me to hold the kids." And Wanda's like, "What do you mean?" And then like it's like this weird moment,
It was so
and then
weird.
Agnes just like starts like it's like back in character. Now she's Agnes again.
I got full body chills, bro.
And then Vision like
Like,
starts
they just
talking to
awkwardly
Wanda.
laugh. They just
Yeah, they
awkwardly
just like
laugh.
awkwardly laugh it off, and then Vision like takes Wanda to the side and is like, "Did you not see that? Like, was that not weird for you?" And Wanda's like, no, no, like it's
And
whatever, it's
Wanda,
fine.
Wanda
She's like,
lies.
ah. Yeah, she lies to him. At this point, now you know that he is can't be controlled by her, one, and he's like picking up on everything. Because even she tries to like convince him and be like, "Oh, like what do you mean? Like that was like it was fine." And he's like, "No, it's
Mhm.
not. Like that was weird." Then the kids stop crying and they have aged up to age 5.
The
It's
way these
really
kids
cute.
age up after every minor inconvenience was so,
Yeah, they're like
so like me.
aging up.
No, it
Um,
totally gave me. I'm a twin, so like when they like looked at each other and aged up, like they just knew to. I was like, yeah,
so adorable. I
they
was
were so
living for
cute.
them. This is also we also see their like outfits reflect their hero costumes in the comics of Wiccan, and I believe his name is Speed. And they're like, "Mom and Dad," and it's all cute, and they're like, "Wow, you aged up. That's so weird." Like
And
he's
not
like,
only did
"Why
they
is
age up,
Agnes?"
they aged up in front of
Of
Agnes.
Agnes, and Agnes is like, "Oh, what did she say something?"
Yeah.
She's like, kids, you never know," or something like that. Then we go back to the real world. We go back to Darcy and Monica and Jimmy and everyone outside of this world. And it's Monica. She's trying to get her tests to make sure everything's okay, and her tests are just not coming back, negative or positive. They're just not showing up,
They're just
and
inconclusive, no
it
results.
is
The
just
X-rays
like
aren't shown.
they show like a picture, and you could see like an outline of like her neck and her shoulders, but it's just like a bright ball of light. A lot of people believe that that is her powers starting to manifest. The way, and this is the way of MCU introducing her as a photon, I believe I'm
Yeah,
saying
no,
that
it's
right.
okay.
and then Darcy and Jimmy come in, and they're like, there's a meeting that's happening, and we're gonna figure some stuff out. They go to the meeting, and
Hayward
is, I was, when Hayward was first introduced, I was kind of like, is this man sus? I can't tell if he's sus or not. Or he also has the voice of like every cartoon
villain
ever.
Yeah.
Like he said something. He said like,
It's like,
we're gonna go on another mission or something like really deep, like in like the like he said.
For me, it was when he was like
chest.
fire. For
and
me,
I was like,
get there, but for me, it was when he was like fire the missiles, and Monica was like, "What? This isn't weaponized." And he's like, "Fire." I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, I was like, whoa. She, I guess, like volunteers to go back into the bubble, and she's like, I'll go back in. I'll like, you could send me back in because I've been there before and I know how things work.
And she makes
and everyone's like
Wanda will trust her and not harm her.
Yeah. So
and Hayward is like, LOL, no.
Yeah, but then her, Darcy, and Jimmy like devise a plan to try and get in there, and she's like, I would probably need this, and that to get back into the dome or back into this fake reality and not be controlled by Wanda. And she says something that people believe is a Fantastic Four Easter egg. She says, I only know one aerospace engineer or technician that would be up for the job, and that is a reference to Mr. Fantastic. That people picked up on, and they were like, oh, is that like Mr. Fantastic, which is really cool.
Well, yeah, because now
everything that was owned by Fox is now owned by the MCU.
Everything,
we are ready to buckle up.
It's fair game.
This phase, I already know this phase. They're just gonna drop like all these like little hints. Then we go back into the real world, and we see Tommy and Billy, and they're in front of this like sink, and they were like, we should like keep him, but we can't tell Mom. And like, he doesn't like the water. Like some sort of like animal in the sink. And then Wanda walks in, and they like hide, and like they like hide. It was so cute.
It was so cute.
They go in front of the sink to try and hide it everything in the sink. And then the dog sneezes, and they both go, thank you. And then the dog barks, and then Wanda's like, okay, so who barked? And she sees like this dog, and she's like, it's so cute because this entire episode is what their life could have been. Like, there were so many moments where it's like, so like, oh, I'm so happy for you guys, but it's so heartbreaking because it's like,
but it's also like,
it's
not
all gonna like disappear.
Not us wanting to be in WandaVision. Like,
oh my gosh, no! I will defend the way that I will defend Wanda. Like, people like,
people are like, she's a war criminal,
and she's the villain. She's the villain. I'm like,
I don't care.
Like I'm like, no. And they're like, but she literally put a bunch of people into a dome and like is mind controlling them. I'm like, yeah, but
it's okay.
No, she could literally kill everyone, and I'd be like,
it's okay. She added a little spice to their lives. Chances are those Jersey civilians were a little bored too, and rolled up and said, let me add some spice.
She could literally do the worst, and I'd still be like, but Wanda's still the hero.
But also look at what she's been through. The sweet moments of this episode were especially just grueling, because for every like sweet, heartfelt, wonderful, pure moment, we also got an equally bad moment. This was like highs and lows, baby.
This one really hit hard this episode. And so she's like running them down. She's like, this is like, you have to train it, you have to walk it, you have to like potty train it, like dogs are a lot of work. And then she like switches, and you're like, and they need a lot of cuddles and loud. And then Vision comes in, and he's like, what? He's like, we have a dog now. And then Wanda notices that he's like in his human form, and she's like, why are you in his human why are you in your human form? He's like, because I have a feeling that somebody's gonna come over. And then Agatha, I keep saying Agatha. Agnes.
They're one and the same.
They're the same person.
This is literally House of M. Bye.
Yeah, Agnes comes in with like a dog house. The dog like jumps from Wanda's arms and goes to like an electrical outlet, and then the electrical outlet sparks, and they give him the name Sparky. I had a hunch that the dog might be Mephisto. Not even like, I don't know why.
I heard that.
I just felt that way because like, maybe Mephisto, I mean, he is the devil, but like, what if he like wants to see his kids or wants to see like what they're doing, or like keep, I don't know.
Yeah, everyone was basically like, oh, like he's gonna take the form of animals in this show. And I don't know, there's something sus about Sparky, but I don't know if I believe that it's Mephisto. I also heard a theory that Agnes had to kill Sparky to bring Peter, or to bring
that
So then
happened. They have a dog
they
now.
adopt the dog Sparky, and
They
it's
have the dog now,
cute,
and
wonderful little moment.
the
It cuts to
world,
an office scene. That was
the
crazy.
office
The
scene.
office scene, I had like full body chills, Grace. I can't even, and oh, okay,
Yeah,
so this directly ties into what we talked about last week, because what I read to you guys last week on Norm's character profile, that completely came true. So that was cool. I was
yeah.
like,
I was
yep.
like,
I was like, I
wait, so
knew this
are
was
they
gonna happen.
watching it in the same time that we're watching it, or is
Yeah,
that just like an Easter egg that Marvel
yeah,
decided to
that
drop? It was
Marvel.
like if one of the fans actually like sees this and zooms in, like they know it's happening. So I was like,
Right.
do
But
they?
also, I don't know, because they messed up the timeline a little bit there. I don't know if that was on purpose, because I have
Yeah,
a feeling Marvel just accidentally disclosed more info than they should have. But also, it's Marvel; they wouldn't make
yeah.
mistakes like that. So
I
I
was like, I
think.
don't know if that was just
But
like an
also,
Easter
that would
egg
show that
or
we're behind. That like we've been knew that like we are watching a very different WandaVision than
than
Kat and Jimmy.
Darcy. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, than Darcy, not Kat. Kat
At this
Dennings. I
point,
love.
there, Kat Dennings is
I
Darcy.
wanted to
Darcy is.
say. But yeah. So we saw Vision wake him up, and he was like, "Where am I? Where am I? My sister's my mother." But he also adds that he is in
You forgot
excruciating pain.
the email before that.
Yeah, the email was
The
crazy. Okay,
email.
go.
So like now that it's the 80s, we have computers, and he's still working at the same place he did in the first episode. And Vision is helping them like get the computers in order because he obviously knows how to do that. And there's an email that they all get, and it's an email from Darcy, and she's basically explaining this Wanda or the Maximoff phenomenon, and she's explaining how Sword is like observing this fake reality and how Wanda has created it, and everyone in the office starts laughing, and Vision has an oh snap moment, like it starts to
It was
all
so
click.
no. First off, before everybody started laughing, they all start perfectly reciting the
Yeah,
email in
reciting it.
unison, and then they laugh. I was like, "What?"
There's one thing, if they're bringing it back, the whole like horror thriller aspect that we first saw in Age of Ultron with Wanda, if they're bringing that like theme and that dynamic back, I think that's really smart and really cool because I don't think we've ever seen a like a superhero horror movie.
I also think
Remember.
WandaVision is just a smash between House of M and The Vision, like the
Yeah,
comic The Vision.
it is.
Because
Yeah.
there's
They
so much.
definitely drew a lot from that. I mean, MCU has always been like, we're gonna pick and choose what we want from the comics, but it's very
Right,
evident that they chose from
right.
those two. Then
Sure.
he touches Al to like um bring him back, and
Norm.
who's it?
Norm.
Norm. Oh, I'm sorry,
He
Norm.
wakes Norm up. Who
Yeah,
But he
everything in the
also
note.
says that it feels like he was in an extreme amount of mental pain.
Yeah,
And earlier in the show too, Monica is describing her experience, and she said that it was Wanda completely in her mind, and all she felt was like this hopeless feeling of loss and grief. So
yeah,
I think that Wanda, while mind controlling, like she's having all the citizens
yeah. She's inflicting.
carry
Yeah,
her
she's
grief for
inflicting
her,
her.
so she does not have to carry that grief or
Yeah,
feel it.
which
So
is
she's making
also
all the
why
citizens
I believe
feel
there's
it.
like a darker thing at play.
Yeah,
Um, that she's carrying around. I mean, we know she has a lot of grief and we know she has a lot of pain, but
yeah,
the fact that she's holding on to it in this like magnitude is how can somebody hold on to that without having somebody like whisper in their ear? It's just like for me as a viewer watching the show, it was like another indicator that there could be somebody else helping her stay in this state of mind, in this state of pain, in this state of
yeah.
grief, that like fuels her to continue to want to keep this world in order. Then Vision puts him back to sleep.
Well, that's when Vision realizes that the people are in danger and the people are in pain.
Yeah. Then we go back to Sword headquarters. Also another cool thing that they did here, the frame changes every time you go from Sword into the um and then into the world, into Wanda's world,
Into
which I thought was
Westview.
like a neat little thing. So we go back to Sword and we see that Monica is trying to do a drone, but she created she's bringing in a drone from the 80s so that it doesn't like change its form and it
Right.
stays how it is, and she can also monitor what's going on there, and it works. And the drone gets through the dome and you can see the town, and then it cuts to we're inside Wanda's house and the dog is like at the door like barking and you can hear the drone. And Monica is talking. Wanda opens the door. She tells her kids to like stay in the house. Monica opens the door. She sees the drone and like you can see that Monica is trying to talk to Wanda through the drone, but nothing is coming out on Wanda's end, which is why I'm like, is there somebody blocking
It
what's
wasn't?
being said? No, like I don't think Wanda heard anything that Monica was trying to say. It
Like,
cuts to like Wanda inside Wanda's world and you don't hear any of that. You just see the drone and like
oh,
Monica's
okay.
just staring at the
I
drone. Like
didn't,
all you hear is like the
yeah,
zzz
I didn't
of
pick
like the
up on
drone,
that.
but you don't hear Monica's voice. And then it cuts back to Sword and Hayward is like fire the missile and Monica's like, what do you, she's like, this isn't weaponized, like what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then they fire the missile and then you hear like the breach thing go off. Go to the breach, they point their weapons or their guns
This was
to
so
like
cool.
where the breach is supposed to happen, and you see Wanda come out and Wanda is in like her like Infinity War Civil War, like her
Awesome.
outfit, like her outfit
Yeah,
as
an
Wanda,
Avenger.
yeah, as the Avenger. She was dragging the missile and she threw it at them and she's like, is this yours? And she's like, and
Yeah.
it's like her accent is back.
Yeah.
And people believe that the accent, like I don't know if it was an acting choice and like a directing choice or if it was a like writing choice that they were like, oh, I don't know what it was, but it seems that her accent comes back anytime she is like provoked and she's trying to assert her dominance. And so they have like they're talking and Hayward is very very quick to like label her as like a terrorist and a
A
bad guy,
villain.
villain, which many fans theorize that it's because the Sokovian Accords are helping out Sword or funding Sword, and Sword
Right.
is an extension of the Sokovian Accords that we see in Age of Ultron. Um, we see in Age of Ultron
In
help
Civil
you,
War.
yeah,
The
in Civil
Sokovian
War,
Accords were in Civil War. Yeah.
Civil War. And Monica is like kind of alarmed that Hayward is so quick to like label Wanda as
Yeah.
a person.
That was
And
sus.
Monica is kind of like, whoa, 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 like, no, that's not how we roll. And like, she would know because she's the daughter of the founder of
Yeah.
this organization.
I've seen
And
some arguments that her rank, like, if she hadn't disappeared, she would have been in a higher position
yeah,
than
she
Hayward.
would have had Hayward's job. Like, that's established in
Right.
the fourth episode is that she would have had Hayward's
Right.
job if she wasn't gone. But it also shows the kind of like the disconnect and the inconsistency between the 5 years. Like, there's a lot that has happened in those 5 years that we didn't see in Endgame in terms of like what happened with Shield, what happened with the Sokovian Accords, what happened with
I
Sword,
mean,
like the
we did
foundation of
not
all
see
that.
any of the
Like
reaction
anything
to the
outside of the Avengers in Endgame. So we really
No,
don't know.
right. We didn't see any of the outside world's reaction to the blip.
Yeah, the most we ever got was like Captain America in that meeting
And that's
of
it.
people, and then there's like a cameo of one of the Russo brothers. That's like the most we got of like how is the outside world reacting.
Did you hear that Stan Lee's last cameo was that he was supposed to be Captain America when he
Yeah,
and that would explain all
and
of
all the
his
cameos were
cameos
supposed
were
to
him
be
going back in
to
time looking
protect
out for
his
his
friends.
friends. My
Yeah,
heart
yeah,
shattered when I heard that. Bye. That would
yeah.
have been perfect. It would have
That would
been
have been
perfect.
that would have been amazing.
And
So then Wanda uses her powers. So Monica's trying to explain to Wanda is like Monica has this hunch that there is somebody else controlling Wanda.
Wanda.
People are let into the world, into like this fake reality, which means Wanda must have known that Monica was a sword agent, like knew who she was in order to control her and like get into her head. Um, and she also trusted her to deliver her children. So at some level, so a lot of fans theorize was Wanda letting Monica in a cry for help, almost like a like help me, like
Oh.
there's something wrong here, like
Because
there's
in
no
this
reason that she
episode,
let Monica in.
right, we also
Monica
know for
knows.
sure confirmed that there is a third party at work because Wanda herself says, I don't even know how to talk
At the end of
in."
the episode, she's like, do you think I'm like in control of like when they wake up, when they go to sleep, when they go to dentist appointments? She's like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how this all like this whole thing started.
We also learned that everything in that reality is very real. It's not mind tricks. They are tangible, real objects that she has been.
It's very Monica even says
And
she's like everyone's like, so is this fake? And Monica's like, no, it's like real.
and then Sword figures out that this means that Wanda is using unmeasurable unparalleled amount of power to this point. We didn't even talk about this scene. And then they were talking about, well, Wanda is the most powerful Avenger. And someone's like, I would argue Captain Marvel is.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then
Jimmy and
Monica's face when Captain Marvel is mentioned.
what is happening
and
with Titi Carol and Miss
What's-
Monica? There's some tea. The girls are fighting.
The girls are fighting. I
What's the
want to
tea?
know what happened. Because
Fighting.
then she's also like, well, we're not talking about her right now. And then it cuts to Kat Dennings, Darcy's face, and she's like,
her and Jimmy are like,
I have a theory that she's just pissed that Captain Marvel didn't do more, like didn't show up before Endgame.
I'm sure. I have
Because Maria died.
Yeah, her mom died, and I'm sure she has some like.
And she always looked for her
questions.
aunt.
She probably blames the blimp on Captain Marvel, on Carol too.
Yeah.
Because she knows that Carol
Captain Marvel was like,
if she would have been on Earth when all this was going down. I'm sure she holds some sort of like resentment towards her. She also doesn't even know if her mom died alone. Like, was Carol there?
Yeah.
Why hasn't Captain Marvel come to see her after this whole thing? Like Captain Marvel, like, you know, she's a busy woman. She's out here like protecting other planets and galaxies and universes. But like, that's your goddaughter. Like, you have some sort of responsibility to like be there for her.
I think we're definitely gonna see a backstory in Captain Marvel 2, and Miss Marvel's supposed to be in Captain Marvel 2 as well. Like, their stories connect. So I'm excited to see that. But back
to the episode. So that after Monica is like trying to explain to Wanda that like she believes that Wanda is still in there. She's like, Wanda, I know you let me in there for a reason. Like, we're just trying to help you. Like, we want to know what's going on, because there are people's lives that you were like ruining in there. Like, you might not realize it, but like those are people's like lives.
They're holding all of her pain.
So then Monica's just like had enough, and she like mind controls all the guards and like has them point their guns to Hayward, and Hayward's like, whoa, 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 like stand down, and like they all like freak out.
But before that, she says her very famous, like, this is your one and only warning, like, stay out of my home.
She was like, stay out of my
home. I'll stay out of yours.
Yeah.
And so did you catch that parallel between that gun scene and Magneto? In one of the films Magneto's in, I forget, there's a scene where he turns all the guns
in Dark Phoenix,
he turns all of the guns on people, and I was like, wow, like father, like daughter.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, if you've ever seen Dark Phoenix, it's when they're on the train and that crazy alien lady with the blonde hair is like coming towards her, and then like Magneto like points, like takes all the guns off the wall and then points them at her, and then like she obviously can't die because she's an alien, and like she just like regenerates. But like, oh my god, that's why I'm saying like it would make so much more sense. Like, I don't know if I will ever forgive Marvel for not introducing Wanda and Pietro in the XMen universe and like changing their origin story, because like it would have been so good, and it would have made so much. I'm in the middle of like, well, I kind of just finished. The only movie I have left is to watch is Logan. I've been on like an XMen movie marathon at the moment, and like I'm watching it, and Magneto just reminds me so much of Wanda.
Even a lot of
Professor X, Charles even says it. He's like Magneto has a way with guns. Yeah, that was I didn't even realize that. Hey, come on.
So
and then from there we go,
and then Wanda goes back into
the commercial. The commercial, the Lagos commercial, Lagos commercial, and it's like a Downy,
when you make
paper Downy is
when you make a mess you didn't mean to.
Yes. That's what the name of the
city.
The city, it's the name of the paper towel company, but it's also the name of the city that started the Sokovian Accords, and it was because Wanda kind of like unintentionally made a mess of the city of Lagos.
It's when Wanda like took out
and
a whole entire building of,
we all know, and then they're all like,
that famous scene we all know,
because we don't know the extent of her powers. In the beginning, in the first scene, or like one of the first scenes that we see of the Sword headquarters, they talk about how Wanda is a threat because she stole Vision's core.
One of Hayward's main arguments is that Wanda is a villain. When he's trying to convince Monica that Wanda is a villain, he is like, if she's so good, why would she break into Sword headquarters and steal Vision's body and go against his wishes? I have some thoughts on that. Let's talk about it. So in Infinity War, we have never ever once seen Wanda go against Vision's wishes, even when it means she has to kill the love. No, even
but
when
not to that extent.
no, not yet, not until WandaVision. Well, yes, they butted heads. They've been on different sides of.
But she
stuff,
even,
yes, but
yeah, because that's the whole of Civil War.
Civil War,
Like,
yeah, in Infinity War, Wanda respects Vision's wishes to kill her. She goes against everything in her body, every fiber of her body that loves this man, that wants to protect this man, she kills the love of her life strictly because that is what he wants her to
like
do.
for the greater good.
Like, if there was ever a time for Wanda to go against Vision's wishes, it would have been right then and there.
And there is definitely a solid reason. I think.
Well, right. So
first of all, why did Sword even have his corpse? Like, why did Sword even have him in like when you see the footage, it almost looks like they're like he has like wires connected to him, and they're
they were like
on him.
dismantling
I'm like,
him. My point is that Wanda would only disrupt Vision's body if she had just cause, and if Sword was potentially making Vision into a weapon,
or she knew that somebody else was going to come and take him.
Right. Me doing like mental gymnastics to try to justify Wanda's actions. I'm like, no.
But I will defend that girl to the day. I would like to the end of the series. I will defend her.
Right, but it makes sense, Grace. It makes sense.
It does make sense.
Like, what?
I don't think she would just. She wouldn't
randomly.
If they really wanted to respect Vision, and you want to be like, oh, we were like respecting Vision. Okay, bury him and let him rest in peace. Like,
right.
Why did you have him in a lab, like with doctors and
wires
and stuff? No, you're not better than her. Don't even try it. So we're back in the world. I just wanted to talk about that because we skipped that. We're back in WandaVision world, and unfortunately, Sparky has found his way into Miss Agnes Azalea bushes, and she's like,
Sparky dead.
He died. Sparky be dead. Miss Keisha, she's dead. R.I.P. Yeah, so Miss Agnes is like, oh, he died. I'm like, Agnes, don't act brand new, girl. I was like, you definitely had something to do with it.
So, I didn't want to bring him over until I knew the kids were ready, and I was like, Miss Girl, you just killed Sparky. Bye. Someone get this girl an Oscar.
I know. I actually love the actress that plays Agnes. Anyway,
Catherine Hahn is in that. Catherine Hahn is a national.
Killing it. Not even gonna lie, she's
a national treasure.
And then, the kids are really sad, and like they look at each other like they're about to age up, and Wanda teaches them a very valuable lesson. She's like, you can't run away from your problems, like you have to deal with them. And I'm like,
hypocrisy.
Funny. Yeah, I'm like, Wanda, that's very funny.
The whole way that started is that the boys looked at each other and were about to age up in order to get past the feeling of grief for Sparky. And Wanda's like, no, don't. You have to let yourself feel. And I was like, Miss Girl, you are one to talk.
Girl, okay. And so then I think that somebody is definitely telling those kids something, or they're just very intuitive, and so they're like, Mom, fix it, like you can fix the dead.
Yeah. Oh my God, they said, Mom, you can fix everything. They said, Mom, you can fix everything, fix dead. Literally said fix dead.
Instead of like dead is also another like symbol for dad, because dead and dad, I don't know, like I thought, I was like, when because I heard fix dead, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting.
Dead too.
Yeah, but I was like, that's an interesting play on words, because it could also be interpreted as fixed dad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's how I was like, oh, that's an interesting like play on words. Like if they meant it like that, but I don't know. That's just my mind working. I
just think the twins know
that
something.
Gave me like shivers down my spine. I was like, when he said that, I was like,
well, you can fix it. And then right in front of Agnes,
like, either they're really, really smart, or somebody is telling them something.
They know something.
Agnes is telling them something, or they're Mephisto is.
Because Wanda's even like, what are you talking about? What? And then right when all this confusion is about to come to a climax, Vision comes in and is like, what?
Unless they have the same powers as their mom in like terms of like they can read people's minds. Like they can like mind control people.
Yeah, I don't know. So there's something fishy about
There's something weird there.
But then Vision comes and he's like, "Oh, boys," and then he hugs him, and there's a cute little.
I was like,
and Sparky be dead.
And then we skip back into the house, and it's late at night, and Miss Wanda's like putting the toys in the basket, and they get into this big fight,
this huge fight. And okay,
can I just say the acting in this scene was Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, the way that they play off each other
Yeah.
is insane. Like, I get why Kevin Feige was like, I just want to continue it. What was I?
Oh, okay. So the fight scene, and
They get into a fight
last week I talked about how I thought that a fight would happen
because
because
they
I
wanted
talked
to.
about the 1 second clip I saw of them like flying up to each other, and that's where this clip was, and I was like, oh my god, I was
Oh
right.
my god, I was hooked. I
I
was
was like,
hooked. Paul Bettany made me like shed a tear when he was like, so he basically is like questioning Wanda. He's like, what you're doing is wrong. He was like, I talked to Norm. He told me everything. What you're doing is wrong. What you're doing here is wrong. Like this,
you're
like what
hurting
am I
them.
doing here? He's
They're
like,
in
what am I
pain,
doing
Wanda.
here? What's happening? And he was like,
He
well,
goes,
even before
I
that,
can't remember anything
he
about
was
my
like,
life
yeah, she
before
was
this.
like, you never talked to me like this before. Like, what's wrong? And she's like, and he's like, I can't remember before. Like, I don't know what my life was
Yeah.
before this, and I'm scared. Yo, when he said I'm scared, I almost
I was
sobbed,
like,
bro. I was like,
I know.
wow. And then this is the first time that we hear her admit that like she even doesn't know how she does it
How it
all.
started.
And then
Yeah.
he was like, why are we the only people who have kids, Wanda?
Yeah. Why are there no
And she's
other
like,
kids?
I walk past that playground every day and there's no kids. She's
Mm-hmm.
like, and he like questions, he's like questioning her, like he's grilling her at this point, and she's like having like a like she is like
She
losing
doesn't know, but
everything.
also she doesn't
But
know.
she also doesn't know. She's
She's in
like,
a
I don't
crossroads.
know. Yeah.
She's somewhere between trying to justify her actions that she has done, that she knows that she is controlling, and also being like, I genuinely
But
do
she's
not
like,
know.
because she's like, I did this for us. I did this so that we could be together.
Right.
But he, like, that's not who he is. And this is like the first time that we see Vision with like, we know now we have confirmation that Vision has free will, and Vision is the Vision that even though
Yeah.
he can't remember his life before, Vision is the Vision that we know in the Avengers.
Yeah.
And like even like in Age of Ultron when he's like, I'm on the side of life, like that's
Yeah.
who he is to his core. And so we also see that Wanda can manipulate him. Like that's how this whole thing starts. Is
Yeah.
because Wanda said I can control you. And then Vision's like, what? The
Vision's
credits
like,
roll while they're fighting.
right. And then she's like, you can't control. Vision's like, you can't control me. And
And
Wanda
she's like,
goes,
can
that
I?
guy?
And he's like, what? And he like looks at her like, and you can, and this is the first time you see that she actually can't. Because in the past, like, she has been able to, like, you see it in episode 3 and 4, kind of like he's questioning her, and then like there'll be a glitch, or it'll go back and he will like change what he said. Like, it
Mhm.
won't be him questioning her. But now, like, now that he's seen Norm, and that I feel like because he woke up Norm, he himself
Woke up.
woke up. And the thing is that nobody else could put him back to sleep the way that he put Norm back to sleep, because
I
that's
think I would argue he was putting himself back to sleep with the perfect little fantasy of a perfect family.
but he doesn't know.
Like,
You know
I
what I
think this,
mean?
well,
Like,
every
he
time,
doesn't
no,
know
because
any.
every time he was questioning anything, he immediately abandons all doubt right when he's reunited with Wanda or his family or the love there.
Yeah, but his doubt grows. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it was that, he wouldn't have questioned
Yeah,
her
okay, but
anymore.
I'm
He would
saying
have been
like that has no longer become enough because there have been too many instances to make him, to force him to see.
well, so they're fighting, and she's like, I don't control it. Like, I don't like I don't know how it got this far, is basically the last thing that she says before the doorbell rings. The doorbell rings, and then Vision gets upset because he sees it as her trying to change the subject or trying to divert the conversation, and she's like, it's not me. And then he like, it looks like he's fed up, and she's like, you don't believe me. And then the doorbell rings again, and she opens the door, and you see her face like drops, like she's like, what the
Yeah.
hell is this? And then you see Darcy can see her on the TV, and then Darcy like is watching the TV now, and it pans out and you see the back of Quicksilver's head, and you're like, oh my god.
I thought it was
And then she's
Pietro.
like, Pietro. And he's like, can a brother get a hug from his sister? And it's Evan Peters, the X-Men Quicksilver. And now we're gonna open a whole new
No,
can of
he says,
worms.
yeah, he's like, can a long lost brother get a hug from his sister? And I was like,
That's an Easter egg in and of itself.
yeah. I was like,
The long lost sister thing.
no, yeah, yeah. That's why I like corrected you on
And
that
once
statement.
again, we collectively as a fan base and viewers of WandaVision lost our marbles. We all lost our minds. And people who have been watching X-Men since like 2000, we've been waiting 21 years, and here we are, ladies and gentlemen.
Then it ends there.
Anything about Evan Peters' Quicksilver before.
Then
I
it ends
my
there.
my little theory that I think
I miss Aaron just because
yeah.
that is a fine man, and his death to me
I
was
thought
one
it
of
was
the
him
most.
because in the MCU movies,
I thought it was him too.
he has like
That hair,
almost like black at the bottom, and
no,
then
that hair. They did that on purpose.
And then Evan Peters is in the X-Men. It's just all silver, like
right,
it's all
and
silver.
it's long and silver.
Like, looks like cartoony.
Right. No, they did that on purpose so that we would.
I was like, somebody
Also
made an
because-
edit as if it was Aaron, and I like almost cried.
I saw that.
I was like,
I saw. I also think Pietro's death is one of the most like useless death, like just so unnecessary in
yeah.
Marvel.
When he died, I remember
was
being in the
like-
theaters, and me and my dad were like, "What?"
This is
I mean, I get it. Like, it fuels her, but also like, did we have to kill him so soon? Rest in peace, Pietro. Which makes me think, is she gonna change it to Peter? Anyway,
know.
okay, so here's
and then Kat goes, "What? She recast Pietro?
Recasted Pietro." But here's my thing. This is a confirmation that that Wanda doesn't control everything.
Everything.
Because
she even says she didn't do that.
Yeah, Wanda is powerful. And Wanda is smart. Which is why she wouldn't be surprised if Pietro showed up on her doorstep if that's what she manifested for herself. I believe that the way the MCU is going to introduce the X-Men, because of this whole like multiverse, like different reality timeline thing that they're doing with Phase 4, is they're going to make the X-Men a different universe. Like they're going to be like in a different universe, in a different timeline. There are these people called the X-Men, and they're mutants in this universe. That's just a theory I have. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but that's how I see it, because basically after Days of Futures Past, this timeline, the slate for X-Men kind of gets wiped clean. So everything that we see in X-Men 1, 2, and 3 from 2000 to 2006, everything in X-Men 3 kind of like isn't going to happen anymore. Because Days of Futures Past kind of wiped the slate clean for the X-Men timeline. Right. So I was, when I say that I was floored when it was Evan Peters, I was floored.
Freaking out.
Yeah, I was freaking out. I was like jumping up and down, freaking out. I was like, what the? I was like, what?
I was also sad because in last episode, I talked about how I thought Evan Peters is Mephisto, which I still stand by, to be honest. Because also, if you zoom in, there is a red aura around Evan.
I think, okay, here's what I think. I think Mephisto, at this point, I believe Mephisto is at play, or there's at least a third party at play.
He has to be.
I think Mephisto took Peter out of the X-Men timeline and placed him there. Right. Because think about it, the X-Men timeline that Peter plays like a young Pietro, like the 80s version Pietro, and it would make sense if they plot him into here, because he would have been in the 80s already, because the last movie,
that timeline,
the last X-Men movie that we see took place in the 80s, and so I think they just like picked him up and dropped him. I think he's being mind controlled. I think he's being controlled by Mephisto. I'm sure if like Vision tried to wake him up, like he'd be like, where the heck am I? Like, what is happening? Okay, because here's the thing. It's so much deeper than just they introduced a new Quicksilver. Like,
no, right.
So much bigger. Like, it goes into the franchise. It goes into like
I know,
and the history of Marvel and the MCU.
It's blown everything up.
I freaked the heck out. I was like, I have been waiting for this since I was like out of the womb. I used to like watch these movies religiously. Yeah, it would be so cool. Even before that, because the first X-Men movie came out in 2000, and like these movies were just like replaying in my house, bro. Here. Like I wasn't even here. They were just like replaying in the background. That and Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four, yeah,
the ones that were like replaying in my house all the time.
Jessica Alba.
But yeah, it's been 21 years in the making, man, and I am so excited that they are gonna introduce the X-Men. I believe that they're gonna do like a weird like multiverse thing.
Yeah,
in a different. They're gonna like. I feel like we're gonna get more of an explanation in in the coming episodes, but more of an explanation of like Quicksilver. Then we'll get an explanation of the entire X-Men universe entering the MCU. I think we're
the
gonna get
X-Men
that
universe
in like
is
the
for
Doctor
like
Strange
Doctor Strange for
show.
sure.
And I don't know how they're doing it. The only way I can think of them doing it is by them saying that X-Men existed in a different universe and a different timeline, and in that timeline there are such thing as mutants. Like that's the only way in my mind that it could make sense, because in order for the X-Men to have existed in this timeline or in this universe that the Avengers takes place, Magneto and Captain America would have to cross paths because both of their origin stories happen at the same time. Because Magneto is Jewish and he gets taken by the Nazis, and he gets like experimented on in concentration camps, and then Captain America takes place in World War II and like Hydra and all that stuff. That is the only obstacle that presents itself, because after days, because when I was doing my marathon after I saw the first 3 movies from the ones from like the early 2000s, I was like, this is kind of difficult. But then after Days of Futures Past, I was like, no, their job just got like way easier. Like it leaves so much room for things to be done. And like the thing is that characters are still going to play the roles that they played in the early 2000 movies. Like Magneto is always going to be a villain. Jean Grey is always going to have to go through her like moment where she explodes and then dies.
Transformative thing.
Like, same thing with Mystique. Like Mystique still has to die.
Yeah.
Catalyst for
Mystique dead. Like
yeah. But I'm excited to see what they do, because we've been waiting. X-Men fan and like longtime Marvel fans have been
literally 20 years
for this. Have been waiting for this. It would change the game. Like Marvel, like the company, the franchise would be it.
No, it's exploded now. The whole world, like everything's fair game.
Now the only obstacle that presents itself to them is Sony. That is kind of the only that is kind of the only
cue my eye roll.
It's just like the possibilities are endless, and it would make more sense for after watching X-Men, it makes so much more sense for Wanda to exist in the X-Men universe. And I think that's also why she's always had this like I don't fit in here.
Yeah.
Because she's a mutant. Like they don't say it in the MCU ever. When they introduced them, but the reason why they were chose for the experiment was for a reason. And there's a reason why her powers are red and not yellow like the Mind Stone. Because I know fans theorize that they had some, because in the comics they are mutants. But they never like say that they have these abilities in the MCU before they're experimented on. But I think they do.
Right, but there's room for that. There's room for because
it.
We don't hear anything before them. Like
they
never say anything, so it's very possible her and Pietro had their powers before the experiments and the experience behind it.
I'm excited for them.
Or they could have volunteered as a way to cover up them having powers.
Or they volunteered because they had those powers.
No. Yes, but they could also have acted like Hydra is the one that gave them their powers in order to protect themselves.
That too.
Because they are mutants.
Well, they were contractually is that how you say that? I don't even know.
Contractually obligated.
Like they could not say the word mutant or make any reference to X-Men.
Right.
Which is why I also think they're gonna.
But also that could happen. That could happen.
Which is why I think they're gonna have to do like the alternate universe type thing. Like in an alternate universe, Wanda and Pietro.
This is the beginning of the multiverse. Like everything's fair game.
So, like there's so many possibilities. I'm so excited they're doing X-Men. I saw Evan Peters and the fact that it's Evan, like it's the Quicksilver from the X-Men movies, like the comments he made, like the jokes that he made. I was like, oh, this is like they didn't even try to make it seem like he was Pietro.
No, it is X-Men.
They made it boldly clear that he even says my long lost sister.
Long lost sister, bye.
So
and he's dressed as the X-Men Quicksilver, like aesthetic and vibe, not Pietro.
The only thing he was missing was the like little goggles that he had.
Goggles, yeah.
In Days of Futures Past.
At the second he came into frame, I was like, sweet dreams.
Yeah. I'm excited.
This is crazy.
This episode opened up a whole new can of worms, not only for like the WandaVision show, but like for the MCU in general.
Universe,
And I
everything.
didn't think that
Franchise.
they were gonna go that big
As
with the
big?
show, but I
Yeah.
think WandaVision is about to be like WandaVision is about to be as important as the first Avengers was to the MCU.
I agree. I would honestly
The
argue
first
more.
Avengers and Endgame was.
I would honestly argue more. I think WandaVision's changed the entire. WandaVision has changed.
Yeah, it changed the entire way that
It's
the
literally
MCU is gonna work now.
yeah.
And you've never really seen that with any of the past phases,
No.
like 1 through 3. Like you kind of could predict.
It was
More
cool how
like
they all
what's
tied
gonna
together,
happen.
but this just blew.
Yeah, this is they opened a whole new can of worms with introducing the X-Men. I'm very excited. Also, there's a lot of parallels between the MCU universe and the X-Men because the guy who experiments on Wolverine is called Stryker. And the guy who
Strucker.
experiments on Wanda and Quicksilver is Strucker.
I didn't even connect
Like,
that.
y'all
Stop.
thought you were slick as heck. I was like, y'all no. I was like, I looked it up. Apparently, they are two different people in the comics. Like they are completely two. Like there's no parallel between them. But
Universe.
I was like, why are those like those names are too similar?
In an alternate universe.
Similar. Yeah. I was like, those are too similar, and I really want Marvel to like make some sense out of it, even though like in the comics they are two completely
This is gonna be crazy.
things. It is gonna be wild. There was another parallel that I peeped. They never mention Hydra in X-Men. Even though I know in the comics they because Magneto gets experimented on by Nazis.
Right.
But they never mention.
Well, that was probably a contractual thing.
That was probably a contractual thing. But I like looked up on it later, like in the comics, and it's like Hydra doesn't come around until later on. Like I don't know if it's like earlier on in like World War II where that Magneto gets experimented on, and the Captain America story happens later on in World War II.
Right.
I don't know what the like facts or the sequence of events that happens there. I'm just excited to see what how the MCU writes their way through this one. The X-Men is like its own, like as big as the Avenger universe is, the X-Men universe is just as big. And the same thing with Fantastic Four. Like the Fantastic Four could be just as big as the Avengers. The same and just as big as X-Men. Yeah.
It could be.
That's why I'm like, how are they gonna like share the stage? Man, I hope they give the X-Men and the Fantastic Four the same energy that they gave the Avengers, because so especially the X-Men movies, they're so good in their own like not the movies and in their own right. Like the story is so good. But yeah, so thank you guys for listening. This episode of WandaVision was crazy. And I know this episode of our podcast was just as crazier because we are all just collectively losing our minds. So yeah, thanks guys for listening. Remember to let us know of any like theories or like
keep reaching out. Follow our Instagram.
We made a TikTok. We did
too. Make a TikTok 2800 podcast. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok. Come back next week where I
continue to dig through these can of worms. But yeah, thanks guys. Bye.